Hello. Another great use case for signals is to use them to orchestrate complex chains of animations and other interactions that are happening asynchronously in your game scenes. Last time we talked broadly about signals and also went into a lot of depth. We covered what they are, how to use them. We talked about usage patterns, and then we went right into the code, the C++ code for the game engine. Find that video if you're interested. It's a little long, but today I want to cover some stuff I didn't get to in that video. Mainly, I want to cover how we can trigger signals from certain points in animations so that we can have stuff trigger at the right time visually. For instance, when one character hits with the sword, we want the other character to react as if hurt. We could also do other things here too. We could spawn particles or make a sound effect, that kind of thing. I'm going to do this in 3D, so I've added a 3D scene to my repo here, and it's got these two skeletons, hello skeletons, and we can start looking at their animations here. All of these skeletons and animations are from K-Kits. The free packs are CC0 and available for free, so I'm going to use them. You can just download this from my repo, or you can get it from K-Kits and set it up yourself. It's pretty simple, and they look great. I'm going to go over three distinct ways that we can react to animation events, essentially, using signals. All of these could be useful for different purposes, and I will go over why. So the three ways we're going to react here are a one-shot connection, a coroutine with an await, and the brand new Godot 4.7 await tween function. When I put out my big signal video a few weeks ago, Godot 4.7 was not out yet. It came out a few days ago as of today, and it has await tween, which lets us use await signals for tweens, which is pretty cool, and I'll show you how that works. But wait, you say, these are all more appropriate for turn-based games with no physics or colliders. I'm making a real-time action game with sword-swinging physics. Are signals important there? And I say yes, they're essential there too, and I'm going to show you a brief and not really feature-complete implementation of a hurtbox hitbox model that you can use for a fighting game or an action game, as an example. Let's break down our problem here. It's not hard to await the end of an animation. Animation players emit a signal for that already, but we want to emit a signal at a very specific time in any particular animation. So here's kind of the problem with that is that different animations are going to have different points when it makes sense to react to them. Think about like a sword strike in a fantasy game. We want the blood to spill at the moment of contact, not at the end of the animation or before the wind-up. And since attack animations generally have a wind-up, a strike, and then a kind of wind down, it just won't work. So the dumb way to do this would be just to hard code a timer or a tween delay, but that's really clumsy, and that kind of hard coding will fall apart if we're adjusting animations or want to include dynamic animations. First of all, there's a bit of plumbing we've got to do. We have to find the animation we want to trigger a signal from, and we want to go into it. And we're going to go into it by clicking on one of these skeletons here. I've already set up an animation library for each one. I am not going to show you how to do that here, but maybe I'll make another video about that. It's pretty easy. And then we want to find the animation that's going to trigger the signal. I'm going to do it on melee 1H attack chop. And then we're going to press plus up here to create a new track. We want to create a call method track. And here we can now put a keyframe in that is going to call a method on whatever object we choose. Now I've got a 3D unit component here. It doesn't do too much, but it can have a function. I'm going to call it trigger strike. And this is going to get triggered when the strike part of an animation happens, because an animation might be, 20 frames of wind up and then a strike and then 10 frames of pullback. We want to not trigger the hurt reaction when the whole thing's finished. We want to trigger it exactly when the strike happens. So let's find where that is in our timeline here. We want to right click here and we want to connect up our trigger strike here. Now, trigger strike in our unit 3D class here, I just wanted to make it emit a signal called strike, and that's really all we have to do here. And now we can react to that in our orchestration area here. And the other power of this is now you can add this method track with a strike method to all of your attack animations, and it makes it really easy to switch out weapons or use combat styles or whatever. And so there are 3 ways, as I said before, and I'm going to cover them all. So the first way we can do that is just with a one shot. So what I'm going to do here is trigger our attack animation, and then we are going to connect to that with our hurt response here. And what should happen is, because we're not going to hit the response in this frame, this will be connected. There's a little safety here. We check if it's connected or not. And then we make sure it's a one shot. Connecting with one shot means that the event will be immediately disconnected when being called for the first time. And so it won't get called again until we connect it again. So that's a pretty simple way. Another way is to use an await. Now we can always await a signal, which turns a function into a coroutine, which will essentially yield it, let other code run until some sort of, well, in this case, until a signal is emitted. So that's what happens here. We await the strike signal, and then when the strike signal is emitted, we can run the hurt animation. And the final one I want to show you is a version of this using the brand new Godot 4.7 tween await method. So this is probably too complicated to use for something as simple as this example, but often we are making our complex animations using a chain of tweens. Maybe you're making an arrow fly across the screen, and when the arrow hits somewhere, we want to trigger the hurt animation. Something like that. Or maybe walking a character to a certain point, and then you want them to do something. In this case, we can just add a tween.tweenAwait and then put the signal in there. And then this whole tween chain is going to await this tween being emitted before it goes on to the next stuff. In this case, it's just a callback. If you're using a tween already, the tween await is great. If you want something very simple, you can just do the coroutine version. They're all good. Okay, so what about action games? My interest is mostly in the kind of thinky games where animations are just representing what has already happened in a simulation, not driving game state itself. But if you want to explore the dark arts of action games with physics and collisions, we've got a whole different and also interesting set of animation challenges for you to explore. Challenges we can solve with, well, signals. And all of the stuff we talked about and learned in this video and the previous signal video kind of applies here and can be used to wire all of this up. What's going to follow is a pretty rough implementation, and you're going to need some serious work to make it battle ready. But it's basically how these things work in a fighting game or a Dark Souls-like game. Check out some videos online with frame data for games like this. A really good source is Babe1, Babe2, whose Dark Souls 3 frame data video I'm clipping here very briefly. Basically, the idea is that we now care about the position of physical objects in our world. Colliders are attached to them, and we control those colliders by triggering animations. There are 2 types of colliders we care about here, a hitbox and a hurtbox, and they'll be attached to the places on our character models and animated with the character's geometry, unless they're projectiles, in which case they'll probably be separate from our character in the scene and also trigger similarly. I'm going to use Area 3D nodes to drive this, and each of our skeletons needs to have a hitbox that covers their body, more or less, and a hurtbox that covers their weapon, probably a bit more than less. Note that complicated characters or complicated attacks are going to need many, many more shapes and colliders in their patterns, but do not try to fit the visible geometry perfectly here. For one, collisions with complex shapes are extremely expensive compared to collisions with a bunch of basic shapes. A bunch of spheres or capsules is really easy to calculate. And 2, we often get much better gameplay if we are fudging our collisions one way or the other, usually in the player's favor. The basic idea is this. When an active hitbox collides with a hurtbox, we trigger the behavior we want. And this is probably going to include not just animation triggers, but now also data changes too, like taking some damage or staggering your character. With this system, we can no longer decouple our data calculations from the physical world we're rendering on screen, which, So So here's our code. When we trigger an attack, we turn on a specific hitbox area 3D here and start our animation. We want to also make sure that the hitbox is deactivated when this animation finishes. Generally, we want the hurtbox to always be on, though you might turn it off for special cases like iframes when rolling in a Dark Souls game. Of course, signals are also at the heart of this. We are connecting to our hitboxes on area entered signal, as well as using animation finish to reset our state and disable our attack's hitbox. Implementing this in 2D is basically the same thing. We just want to use 2D areas and animations. So this is what we want to use basically for any game where the animations themselves need to interact with physical collision shapes. So a Dark Souls, a Street Fighter, a Zelda, whatever. I wouldn't use it for anything where the animations are simply representational and don't need to trigger any data state changes themselves. For example, even in a lot of real-time strategy games, the unit animations are kind of just cosmetic. We don't care whether the Zergling's animation makes its talons hit the marine to do damage. We just care that that action was triggered. We really don't want to add physics unnecessarily into gameplay simulations unless we really have to, because it introduces a ton of weird complexities and indeterminism that you have to deal with, and just weird bugs. If something goes wrong with a purely representational animation and your character swings in the wrong direction, that's just kind of goofy because the same gameplay happens. But if it's in a system where the animation is driving data, then you have a bug that makes the game bad and hard to play. And there's a lot of games out there that have mostly discrete kind of simulations with some basic physics and collision, and that's fine, but they're probably not actually keying off of animations. They're just doing some simple collision checks and stuff. Anyways, this is just to get you started on the concept. You can take this from here and find more advanced information for people who know more about this kind of game development than me to make your game. But still, signals all the way down, baby. One last thing that I forgot to mention during my big video was the bind function. So this binding lets us turn a function into a callable with a predefined set of arguments that we can pass in like this. Really handy. Very easy, and it's better than using a lambda. All right, that's that for now. So I'll probably follow up with a few other signal-related videos because I think it's a really interesting and big topic. So please subscribe, and there'll be other architecture stuff and probably a big course coming soon too. Kind of in the middle of that now. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon.